Hello, how's it going? My name is Edward Shao, and I would like to thank you all at the Blue Climate Initiative for allowing us a chance to present and talk today about Project QR Restore, a soon-to-be initiative in Quintana Roo, Mexico, which I hope to be started. Our mission statement is proteger, mitigar, restaurar. Our mission statement is to basically protect, mitigate, and restore aspects of the blue carbon restoration system and the marine ecosystem in Quintana Roo, which have undergone severe losses in the past decade. We hope to do this with the support and equal collaboration of all local stakeholders involved. So, a little about me. I'm born and raised in New York City. I grew up here my whole life. When I was in high school, I got the great, amazing opportunity to study abroad with a group of students from all over the United States. And this was done with the possible support of, with the amazing support of Student Diplomacy Corps, a nonprofit which I'm still involved in today and hope to give back to in the next few years. Now, our cohort of students went down to Chile in 2014 for the summer, and we basically lived with families, we lived abroad, we interacted with the culture, we visited schools, museums. We started off in Santiago, and here you can see on the right hand side a photo of us at the National Congress. Bonus points if you can spot me in the photo. The trip basically got me out of my shell. I was very shy, introverted, and up to that point, my entire world was New York City. So not only was I in a completely new country, but I was surrounded with people my age. A bunch of us ourselves to not speak English, and we realized it was only until we forced ourselves not to speak English that Spanish began to enter our minds. You know, it's one thing to study it in the textbooks. It's another thing to kind of immerse yourselves entirely. And yeah, here you can see in the middle our cohort, along with people we met volunteering at an orphanage. And that visit was seminal. It turned me from a very introverted kid to a person who would start to see more of the world. I wanted to see more. I knew it wasn't the beginning. And when I left, I basically had tears in my eyes. I broke down, but I told myself that one day, once I had enough money in the bank account, I would come back to visit and maybe work or bring some sort of collaboration down there. I always wanted to come back since what I noticed down there is I think maybe a phenomenon some of you all have seen when traveling down to Latin America. Now, there's in many towns you see the people very happy. There's less of an emphasis on sort of GDP numbers and economy and all these figures that we kind of prioritize at the West here in the United States, but you'll see much more happiness down there. You walk down the street and somebody may invite you, hey, come over to a barbecue I'm hosting on Thursday, which is very common. So I told myself I would come back one day. Right out of college, right out of high school, I told myself that I wanted to be an engineer in a field that would basically advance sustainability in the world. I thought about maybe working in nuclear engineering or something like that, but I instead chose to major in environmental engineering at SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry. Now, after college, I immediately started working for the government. I worked for the FAA, and this was a job I enjoyed immensely, upholding regulations. And yeah, in 2020, I took a little break, however, to take a little hiatus and explore the work from home digital nomad lifestyle that was basically sweeping our world, never before seen. I traveled down to Mexico. I fulfilled that promise to myself that I had made 6 years before to basically come back to Latin America and finish off, a journey I'd started. I wanted to live with locals. I wanted to interact with them. I wanted to speak Spanish, practice my Spanish, and the language basically re-entered my head, which kind of brought me to tears again. So yeah, um, while I was down there, I was very troubled to witness parts of the environmental infrastructure that I saw down there lacking. So many people, kind of decry the regression of environmental progress and regulation here in the United States, but at least here in the States, we have some sort of infrastructure. What I saw was down there, certain industries, construction industries, tourism industries, they basically have a blank check. They can do whatever they want. And without the proliferation of wastewater infrastructure, basically throughout the country, there's a lot of pollution and underwater damage. So here are some people I met in my trip. I'll never forget it. And the most important thing was that I began to meet a team of like-minded environmentalists, conservationists, scuba divers, marine biologists, and we all agreed that the time for change, I think, was starting to be realized throughout the entire world. And let's do something. We all said. So here's the core team of Project QR Restore. We basically started off as a team of like-minded people, got together, and it's like, how can we improve the state of the environment here in Mexico? Now, how can we avoid the model of certain NGOs that I saw, which were a little exclusive, focused a little too much on awareness? And I talked to them. I wanted to get involved in some of their efforts, but it looked like most of them had not really penetrated into the communities they were served. I saw this as occurring due to non-diversity. So here's me, Edward Shao. I'm an environmental engineer, and I'm a polyglot. I speak 4 languages, and I at this point my role is a facilitator. I hope to bring people from all different backgrounds and kind of provide that sort of project management infrastructure so that environmental work can proceed. What I saw was basically people chip in out of their free time, out of their on the weekends with their own money to kind of fix the environment. It's very scattered and very divided, and we all hope that with a sort of organization and collaboration, we could change things. Eleonora Fusato, for the purposes of the pitch, won't be with us today. She's an underwater photographer and marine conservationist in Playa del Carmen. She's worked in Italy and all over the Bahamas, working with Caribbean reef sharks. And she knows her stuff. She's done a lot of restoration work all over the world. And next up is Fernando Ayuso, a marine biologist graduate from Autonomous University of Yucatan. Now, he hopes to use more lab-based practical research that he's found to kind of proliferate certain marine biotechnologies out there into the world. And great guy. Lisa Maria Mai. Fernando will be joining us later for the purpose of this pitch. Lisa Mai, who will also be joining us today, who I met down there, is a market research, branding, and marketing expert based in Germany and London. She believes that with the power of insight and communication, we can shift hearts and minds to turn sustainability into sustained reality. She believes that sustainability is an ability, one that often goes unused. We can all tap into it, and I agree. Once we initiate field projects down there and finalize permit applications with the help of some of our grant and partner affiliate organizations, we will be working closely and hand in hand with certain people down there to initiate projects. These people are Rosa Carmen Sotelo Casas, an echinoderm expert. Now, she has a PhD in ecology from the University of Guadalajara, Mexico. She's a specialist in the ecology of echinoderms, and she also manages her own project, Bioloja Latina, which seeks to kind of bring together females working in the marine biology space. And it's great. She's also a proud member of REMEX, amongst other marine science and lab-based organizations in Yucatan. Now, Bruce Kirschman was one of the first people I met down in Mexico. He's been there since 1996, and he was vital in kind of getting this started. He was the one who first suggested to me that, Ed, you shouldn't maybe see Mexico as just a simple vacation pit stop. You can stay here and build something if you want. I've been telling people for 24 years, you don't have to live. You don't have to leave. And I went with that advice. I stayed in Mexico for 5, 6 months, met all these amazing people, at which point it felt like the universe was kind of basically directing me to do something with all these people and all these amazing ideas that were running through these people that I met. So Sam Gonzalez, scuba instructor, he's the boyfriend of Ellie, um, and he's also a scuba instructor. He's a jack of all trades. Worked in the fishing industry, construction industry, and switched to the tourism industry as a diver. And he's also speaks 4 languages like me, so we have that in common. Project QR Restore basically seeks to obtain permit field applications in Playa del Carmen to work with the ongoing Sargasso problem and the issue of the dying coral reefs underwater, which is projects initiated under our NGO line. For the purposes of this pitch with BCI, we will be going with a commercial innovation that we've developed. Now, what is common everywhere in the Caribbean is, it's happened here in the last few hundreds of years. Industrial activities and anthropogenic activities, which seem to be unstoppable, are a major contributor of nutrient runoff. The same deforestation that has occurred here in the United States decades ago is occurring down there in Playa del Carmen to make way for more tourism sectors. Ocean warming. Now, I don't have to kind of preach to the choir about global warming, but the ocean warming basically stimulates a lot of algal blooms and Sargasso proliferations, which otherwise in previous decades have existed in manageable levels, but now have blossomed to gargantuan levels, along with water sports and heavy tourism, which put our underwater ecosystems under additional stress. I lived for months in Playa del Carmen. It's where I met a lot of the team, and it's where we want to initiate our projects. So you can search for many photos online of the Sargasso problem. There are a lot of tonnage. There's an extensive amount of tonnage in the Caribbean. With warming of the oceans, each year we'll see a massive increase in Sargasso blooms in the Caribbean. I believe the figure is about 2020. I think satellite imagery found, yes, USF Optical Oceanography found 3.2 million tons of Sargasso in the Caribbean. Now, if you look up photos, this is basically like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. If nothing is done about this problem, there may not be a tourism industry one day to look at. The hypothetical causes for the Sargasso bloom are an increase in the nutrient load via discharges. We talked about this earlier. Wastewater treatment basically being pushed into the rivers that goes untreated. There's not much wastewater treatment infrastructure in the region. A change in upwelling patterns off of the northeastern coast of Africa. And finally, climate change. I know climate change is a core focus of BCI. Climate change is driving the increased sea temperatures, which are increasing exponentially the amounts of Sargasso we see in the Caribbean. 3.2 million tons, in fact. Okay.
Okay, so it is time to talk about the huge problem that the Sargassum presents in the Mexican Caribbean. So let's talk about numbers. In 2018, 522,226 tons of Sargassum were collected from the beaches and coastal areas, requiring an investment on 332 million pesos. In July 2019, there were more than 10 million tons of Sargassum in the Caribbean Sea and Gulf of Mexico. In this year, 85,000 tons of Sargassum were collected. So as we can see in the picture, there is an excessive amount of Sargassum in most of the part of the Mexican Caribbean. It is going to depend of the place, as we can see, but in general, there is a lot of Sargassum in the shoreline. So when we talk about the Sargassum blooms in Quintana Roo, we have to start talking about the organism that is, in this case, this seaweed. Sargassum is a genus containing around 150 different species of brown seaweed. In the Caribbean, there are two common types of Sargassum that are Sargassum fluitans and Sargassum natans. These are generally attached to rocks along temperate coasts or as a pelagic algae in the open ocean. Sargassum is a keystone species that support relatively high levels of biodiversity that is facing a lot of challenges due to the anthropogenic pressure.
Yeah, now Sargassum is a keystone species, but in these record amounts, 3.2 million tons is clearly abnormal. And at these levels, it chokes out all other aquatic life in the ecosystems. Okay, thank you very much for that, Fernando.
Yeah,
Our solution here at Project QR Restore is we basically want to start taking some of this 3.2 million tons of Sargasso, which multiple countries see as a problem. We want to take it and turn it into a fertilizer. We think this has many commercial applications, and a lot of companies have done related work in the past, finding useful products out of Sargasso, which Fernando will go into later. So our solution is to basically develop a Sargasso fertilizer. Our team, all local stakeholders and associates, we end up hiring and taking on, which we hope to pay stipends. Well, together we will recover Sargasso from beaches and decaying Sargasso underwater. Now, underwater Sargasso emits hydrogen sulfide, which smells like rotten eggs. Underwater, it is lethal. It is absolutely lethal to aquatic life. We basically want through multiple rounds where we want to iterate a functional prototype of our underwater fertilizer, tweak out some of the amounts, arrive at a perfect formula. And after this, we wish to patent and export this to market. Now, we've touched upon this in the application, but this product would have applications for other NGOs, governments, and businesses, and as well as consumers. No longer would they have to depend on fertilizers based on petrochemicals, or that's on land, but the implications are still there. Now, our second prong is we will basically work with multi-stakeholder engagement. And everything we'll do, we will avoid this kind of top-down mentality I've seen in other NGOs. This that doesn't really get anywhere, it breeds resentment. Now, we're going to organize scattered scuba divers, blue restoration institutions, and environmentalists under our umbrella organization, which I think we've done a great job towards. We will conduct ocean and cleanup and restoration efforts to remove hazards from washed up sargassum and to minimize the hydrogen sulfide, which I've talked about before is lethal to reef ecosystems. And everything we will do, we will engage and hire locals to scale up production after the product is patented. Once we figure out that this is patentable, exportable to market, we will work with people in the Yucatan area. The third part is we will conduct public awareness and education programs. We will always, like, a technology is useless if the world doesn't know about it. You know, if it's just kind of isolated and basically privatized. So we will work with all diving and tourist communities in the region and local orgs working in the Sargasso space, such as UNAM, Salgax, and CONAP. And Fernando will talk about Salgax, go into more depth later on. As you all know, we are currently under COVID-19 restrictions and pandemic status still. So we will kind of work with these public events and workshops once restrictions are lifted. And lastly, yeah, we need to educate local communities about ways to integrate the monumental Sargasso blooms so that we can all use it. You know, it can be turned into a public utility. There's a lot of research out there on it, but we can make this more available.
Thanks. So this is Lisa speaking now. And yeah, I'm super excited to be part of this. and just wanted to talk to you about process objectives, because what Ed just presented to you aren't our only goals. We've embedded our solution in these process objectives, and I learned about the importance of process objectives quite recently in an environmental masses class I did about conflict and facilitation, natural resource management, so quite topical. And basically the process of how we realize this project and develop our fertilizer is going to be as important as the fertilizer itself. And having process objectives really allows us to complement the science with a social angle. You know, there are so many people and groups that have a stake in this Sargasso problem, from local communities, environmental organizations, tourism industry, divers, up to, you know, entire countries. And we believe that they all have to participate in the process of realizing a solution, our solution. So in the end, it's very much about public engagement, collaboration, and co-creation of knowledge. And we believe that this is very much aligned actually with the Blue Climate Initiative's mission, which is about you know, informed and engaged communities and education and outreach and a deepened understanding of science. And ultimately, that's what we want to achieve with this project too.
All right, great. Thanks a lot for that, Lisa. Thank you. All right, so our work and what we aim to do here, I believe, helps us basically all meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals 14, Life Below Water. And I know it also fits in very well with BCI's mission statement here. Basically, UN SDG 14 is basically conserve and sustainably use the oceans, sea, and marine resources for sustainable development. Now, Sargasso is a marine resource. We can use it to affect sustainable development and prevent dead zones. Now, 14.1 of the SDG 14 is to prevent and reduce marine pollution, which if we go back to our old slide, basically fulfills subset 2, right? Outcome objective 2, multi-stakeholder engagement. Sustainably manage and protect marine and coastal ecosystems meshes well with our goals, right? Develop Sargasso fertilizer and engage in multi-stakeholder engagement. We're also working to conserve at least 10% of coastal and marine areas. 3.2 million tons of Sargasso, if allowed to basically remain, it will deplete and basically take up, pollute, and emit tons of hydrogen sulfide that we don't want onto these coastal and marine areas. Therefore, our mission statement also works towards 14.5. Now, 14.A is increased scientific knowledge. So what we're doing at this point is at an ideation stage, right? Where once we get this out there, I'm not content to have us just kind of market it. I want our scientific knowledge to get out there. We will do this through our third tier of our solution when we're working with the local communities, and we're basically, I don't mind giving out free samples if it turns out that we do have something patentable and that is really organic. Okay, now Fernando will kind of talk into the history of other Sargasso products, and we're not a new idea. All right.
Yeah, so thank you, Ed. We have to talk about now what has been done so far with the Sargassum. Nowadays, there are a lot of products that has been done with the Sargassum. In this slide, we can see this first product that are Sargassum notebooks that with this name that is Sargánico. That is a sustainable way to use these organisms. Also, we can see that it has been made the Sargassum blocks. There are some enterprises that use the Sargassum to do this kind of blocks to build houses for people. So it is a great idea and to look for new resources to apply it into new things. And can you move to the next one, please?
Yeah, sure.
Another product that has been done are the Sargassum fertilizer by this enterprise that is named Salgax. They have worked with Sargassum to do this kind of products. And there is also another enterprise that has done Sargassum shoe sole. This enterprise is called Renovare. So it is not new. There is no there are a lot of things that has been done with Sargassum. These are just some examples, but I mean, with this and with scientific literature, we can innovate into new products.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're doing is not out of left park. You know, Salgax is working with fertilizer on land. Basically, we think we can, our innovation state is to basically bring a product that is dissolvable underwater and that basically accelerates coral growth, which we'll go into later. Now, please don't mind, a lot of you seeing this image will be reminded of Miracle Grow. Now, I was inspired by Miracle Grow. Obviously, we won't take the whole petrochemical mining and all the transport and all the GHGs that are emitted during the production of Miracle Grow. I will be consulting with my lawyers as to what we cannot get away with. So just keep in mind, this is just a this is just a first level concept so far. Now, Coral Grow will be underwater fertilizer for our coral and seagrasses. At the surface level, right? You have surface level sargassum prevents sunlight and nutrients from reaching coral reefs. If we take that sargasso, turn it into something useful and viable underwater, we can turn what is basically a force against coral into a force for coral. Now, our inputs basically will be sargasso along with a family of minerals, calcite, aragonite, vaterite. These three crystals have been found in scientific literature to accelerate coral skeletal growth formation in an aquatic underwater tanks, in an aquatic tank setting. These crystals have, these minerals have been found to offset pH because with the addition of these calcite, right? Calcite underwater dissolves to become carbonate, and carbonate is alkalinic. Alkalinic is the opposite of acidic, and corals like that. Corals like carbonate. It's like vitamins. They use it to grow and expand. So our Krabby-Patty formula, you know, how we take sargassum to fertilizer. Now, this idea first came to me, and it took multiple rounds of like asking my team, conducting with my team, looking through scientific literature. I'm an environmental engineer. I love industrial processes. If we can find a way to recycle things, upcycle what is considered waste into something great. So now sargassum, Fernando's gone into a little bit about the biological nature of sargassum, but if you harvest it from the beach and you test it within the labs, yes, you'll find amazing properties and great extracts, but at the state it is acidic. There are a lot of heavy metals deposited with the nutrition, and underwater, when it dies, it basically emits hydrogen sulfide, which, as we covered before, is very poisonous underwater. If we take an industrial emulsifier and we run Sargasso through it, we'll have kind of a mushy product, right? This mushy product, we can work with that. However, it still has toxic metals and it still emits hydrogen sulfide. If we take this, run it through a rotating magnet drum, kind of like in a wastewater treatment plant, right? Magnets are used to basically take out heavy metals. The magnets will take out all these ferrous metals. So inorganics are taken out. Now we're left with a biological product, right? No heavy metals. We don't want that. Next, we have this emulsified product, right? It's still acidic. It doesn't have toxic metals. It's still a little acidic. And it still emits H2S. Well, what we can do is we can bottle this H2S. Other stakeholders can take that up, and it is hydrogen gas for hydrogen vehicles. Now, I was on a call in April where I first heard the founder of SOA, Daniela Fernandez, talk. But at this conference, the Wall Street Green Summit, There was also CEOs working in the hydrogen space. Now, one common struggle for them is where to get hydrogen gas. It's very expensive. 3.2 million tons of Sargasso, that's a lot of potential hydrogen gas. We work with these kind of win-win, build these win-win relationships with other players in the space. It's a win-win for everybody. So hydrogen sulfide becomes hydrogen gas. And then last step, we'll figure out the crushed up calcite. We'll add the crushed up calcite vaterite or aragonite, depending on whichever formula we find works best and is very affordable, that will offset the acidic nature of the mushy product at that point. I know you remember, some of you may or may not remember basic chemistry, right? Finding out the buffers. How much acid do you need to make the pH go to here? Like, X over 10 and all that things. All this will have to run in our center that we set up. But the end product, which we want, is coral grow. So out of coral grow, we've also made hydrogen gas for hydrogen vehicles. We've also reclaimed metals. This process we need to figure out will be explored further with funding provided. Granted, we win something from BCI, from the BCI competition. Now, the future roadmap is, I'm very surprised and I'm very grateful to have my team around me. We started this in around June, I believe it was June or May. It started off as a casual conversation, but it's quickly grown. So in that time, we've basically applied for funding. We've set up a website and other platforms. We've developed many relationships with other stakeholders and networks in the region, and we're here to dispel this notion that we're a parachute science organization. All right, we're not here to come and go and just kind of yeah, well, whatever. We're here to build something that lasts. We've assembled a team that I think represents diversity, not just with different generations, but also with where we're from, right? And our expertises as well. In Q4, we're going to apply for more funding. We're going to have our team join the brigade. There's a brigade of volunteers working to save the coral reefs in Cozumel, in Playa del Carmen, and Tulum. They're very cash strapped, and again, they work out of their own pockets. So we will be joining this brigade with the networks that we've cultivated. We'll work out all bylaws. We'll further do inner team building, and we'll build more relationships with our donors. In Q1 of 2022, hopefully by that time we'll have funding officially dispersed. Now, this basically requires us to have a formal incorporation structure, which I'm working on. And a lot of us, we would love to get started, get our hands dirty, but we come from all sectors of the marine ecosystem space. What we will do with funding is get ourselves trained. We'll get ourselves trained and get some experience in-house. We'll finalize permit applications with CONAPESCA. Once we have this training done, CONAPESCA, Semarnat, CONAMP. We'll hopefully establish a local center in Playa del Carmen, which we can fill with lab and industrial equipment we've purchased with the help of hopefully some funding we secure. And yeah, we'll basically start working on a prototype. Now, here are some partnerships in the works. Sustainable Ocean Alliance. We've joined Sustainable Ocean Alliance because we believe in their mission of unifying ocean restoration projects across the world. Being part of this network has allowed me to rapidly scale and change what was a casual group chat into something legendary now. We've also joined International Coral Reef Initiative because we believe in their mission of raising awareness for coral reef issues and leveraging expert scientists and global stakeholders in the fight to save the oceans. We've also partnered with Corallium Labs in Puerto Morelos because we love their mission of investing in coral propagation research and lab development. And Corallium Labs is one of the people we will be working with on brigades, hopefully this winter. If not this winter, then I expect next spring. Yeah, there's a scientific backing for a lot of our ideas, which Fernando and Rosa have kind of elaborated more and attached in the application, our formal application online. This is just a small sample. There are more articles. And yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for listening to us. We thank you again for the opportunity to introduce our idea for Coral Grow. And once again, we're here to proteger, mitigar, and restaurar. Thank you for your time, and hope to talk to you soon.